Let's make some sample objects and show basics of how objects actually work and how they can help us and when to use them, just to be sure that we are on the same page when it comes to basics of using objects. The goal of this series is not to have yet another CMS at the end, although if you like it, feel free to use the code that we make here however you wish. It's an open source and the link is in the description. The goal of this lesson is to understand when and why we should use some popular principles in practical examples. And before we continue with the CMS itself and make improvements to our controllers and models, let's make some sample objects just to get warmed up and to be on the same page. One real example I think that each programmer should and will encounter in their career is calculating the shipping cost for some products on a website. So without objects, we would make some functions like for example, calculate shipping. Let me make one file quickly. And here we would have some products array. Without objects, we would have an array here. And this would usually come from your session. And this will represent some products that the customer has chosen during their visit on our website. So they added several products into the shopping cart. And now we need to calculate the total shipping. We will somewhere in our include functions.php have a function that's called calculate shipping, right? And it would, for example, take two parameters. One would be the product weight, and let's use, for example, price per kilogram. I'm in Europe, so we use kilograms here. And this function would then return some total shipping cost. For example, let's take a simple example, product weight times price per kilogram. And this needs to be a function, right? Because we're in PHP, not in Java. And here we would go for each of our products, product. And this products variable here, it would be an array containing something like products, where the first element would have the weight equals to 1 kilogram, and then the first product would have price per kilogram, or not the price, but the price of the product, sorry, $5. And we would have one constant here, or one setting variable that would be price per kilogram equals to $5. Let's make this one 6 just so that it's different. And here we would call calculate shipping for each of these products. And we would take the weight and we would have price per kilogram, right? Life is great so far. We need one variable here that will be called total shipping price, which will be set as 0. And here we would set the total shipping price to whatever this function returns. In this case, it will be a multiplication of weight and price per kilogram, right? And now if we echo this total shipping price here, we see some problem because we are calling something from session. Let's remove this one and pretend that we got it from the session, right? And if I could spell, that would be much easier. Products. We have a number 5 that represents 1 kilogram times $5 per kilogram, right? Life is great, everything is good so far. Now, this is all good and great, and if your boss or your client asks you to make this one, you make it in like 5 minutes, not much thinking, everything's good, you saved a lot of time, you're very productive. The only problem comes later, because everything in software development, if you save time now, you will have to pay your dividend on it. So often multiple times that you have saved right now. Let me show you what happens in real life. Now the client wants to have you do some calculation based on that if the product has a free shipping or not, because some products are promotional. And then you would have in each and every product to go and say free shipping here and set that to a true or false. And let's make one more product in our array. This would be the product 2. which has false on free shipping, and the weight should be 2 and the price is $3, and it has a free shipping. Now you would actually have to pass this parameter here as a has free shipping, and this function needs to be extended here, and here you would check if has free shipping is true, or if it's not has free shipping rather, you would only then calculate this value. Now the price should not change here, and if I can write correctly, sorry, as free shipping is actually from the product, right? Free shipping there. This is real life coding. This is how it looks when you are coding on your job. You forget pretty much everything. That's why it's good to have a good IDE that will sort of help you with it. I'm usually used to PHP Storm or the IntelliJ. The NetBeans is free one, and I know that there's a lot of people starting who don't want to invest into good IDE. When you start working, hopefully you have a better tool that will help you with such things so that you don't think of such small things, but you're more focused on your concept of what you're doing. And we have 10 here. That's because this first one has a free shipping and this one doesn't. So it has weight 2 times 5 times per kilogram, right? And the first one just goes over this one. Now you can put this if either in the function, or you can put it here in sort of your controller. This would be a controller. Even though it's not object oriented, this is controller, and this would be a model. And so far we were lucky. Just a few lines here and there, and in all places in our session, in our presentation, and we are sort of holding well. Now, of course, as each good web shop, it grows, it offers multiple shipping providers. Now you need to support a different shipping provider that has a different type of rules or different total shipping price, and they might not have price per kilogram, but they might have a different levels of shipping, or perhaps you have to call the shipping service and let them calculate the price and come back to you so that you can continue working on that. Now, of course, you would just put here another value, shipping provider, right? And you would do the same thing here. And then you would start to build another if code that would handle the different shipping providers, or maybe a different function, but you will still have to go over several places. And we are lucky now to have only one place here where we'll call and calculate shipping, but maybe on some other places, for example, on the receipt page, where this would be the receipt controller, we would call this one more time to show to the customer. And when we are making the PDF, we would have this one copied again. And then when we send the confirmation email, we might have all this copied one more time. And by just getting all these parameters on the function, they just grow and grow and grow. And then you need to get all of them again. You would need to get all of these again. You will need to pass them to the function. You need to do a lot of duplication just to get one number, the calculation of the shipping price in our application. Of course, you can round that in several functions and sort of isolate it in a function within a function within a function. But anyway, it's a very difficult way to work. And this is how I started programming back in 2004. But I was lucky enough to move quickly to the objects when PHP 5 came out around that time. And the first time I figured the objects out, I fell in love with them, and it's like the best thing ever that happened to me. Besides my wife and kids and life in general. So life is great. Simple example, but you see the problem where we're getting when we are maintaining and where we are extending the functionality of this code that we have so far. So here is where we can use objects to make our lives a little easier, at least easier in the long run, which is very important. You should always think in the long run. How are you going to maintain this code in 6 months when you forgot about this and you've done 5 different products in the meantime, and you come back here, then you have to hunt and go over this code and find each iteration of this. Of course, you can provide some default parameters, but there you're also limited because default parameters can only be at the end. So if you have another default parameters, then you have to put it here, that parameter that you must have a value for, and then you need to put ones and zeros here, and it's just a mess, trust me. So this is where the objects come to the rescue. And what objects or object-oriented programming is a coding methodology. It's just a way of writing your code. It's not some hocus pocus thing scary that happens around and it's waiting for you. It's just the way you're writing your code, your organizing theme. And the name object here should resemble real life objects. However, to be honest, I don't remember actually making one real life object on any website. And the shipping example is the closest thing to the real life I could actually think of. And I work on over 200 projects, and majority of examples on the internet are trying to explain the object-oriented concepts using the cars or animals or pizza or people. And I think that's why object-oriented programming is very difficult to understand when you're just starting with programming. Actually, in the pizza shop that we created, we would have a products with dynamic properties, and where one of the properties might be a relation to topics or a diameter of the pizza, you would never write a property of a product as a diameter. Because if you hard code all the properties of one actual pizza, the moment your client starts selling pizza sandwiches, then you're going to struggle big time, because it's a whole set of rules. They don't have a diameter. It's a completely different game. So anyway, let me back to the track. If object-oriented is used correctly, it can be very useful on the complex applications and projects like this CMS that we are building. It can split huge problems into smaller ones, and it's much easier to debug complex issues as objects can be tested individually and even developed individually and reused through different projects and different teams. The main thing is that it groups relevant code, meaning it encapsulates it, it puts it into one capsule, and I will show you in this very example some of these basic things. And to be honest, it takes some time to set it up, to initially set it up, and it requires you to get into that mind of thinking in terms of objects, even though they are virtual, but try to think them as a real thing. And lastly, it helps you debugging because, as mentioned, you can isolate one object, and you can test it, and you can debug only that object on its own. You don't need the entire application when you're making one feature or one property, one functionality of a project. That's why it's easy for automated testing, and it's widely used and wanted. It's used everywhere in the modern frameworks, in the modern application. The majority of companies require the knowledge of writing object-oriented programming, especially if you will work with teams with other developers or maybe other companies. Also, it's used in a lot of libraries and frameworks, as it allows for good reusability of same code. So object-oriented OOP is a very good thing to learn and master in more details. However, know that it's not a magic pill to all your problems. You need to know what is a good practice and when and how to apply it. It's very important to master that these days. Because if you do wrong object-oriented OOP, it will make your life very difficult, because you can easily get entangled. It's so flexible that it's so loose that you can get in a big mess if you're not using some of the proven principles and some of the patterns that are already tested and proved, like the model view controller design pattern that we used in the last episode. Some other popular patterns in the object-oriented programming are singletons, dependency injection, factories, facades, etc. And this was actually, for me, most difficult part to understand, how and when to use objects, when to apply each principle. While I was reading, I understood the theory behind it and all those examples with cars and animals and everything. But when I was supposed to write a concrete example, something from the scratch, something for my client that is not an animal, I would struggle big time, and I would usually default to procedural way of writing code because I could see and understand it. So I understand that this could be a bit difficult to master if you are not already used to that. And that is why we are starting with basics here, with some real life examples, something that is applicable to everyday tasks that you can get on your job. So let's make this functionality using objects and see how they work in our practical example in our CMS. So I will just comment everything of this so that we can have it for reference later. And I will make one product object, and the way we make object is by using classes. And here I have a class product called product, and this class is basically a template or a recipe for our PHP, our server, to understand how to make us one object of product kind, to call it like that. I will show you how it works. So the objects can have their own properties. In this case, let's have a private property called price and a private property called weight. Now to make a product, we just need to ask a PHP or our server to make us a new product. And now we have a product. Let's dump it to see what will our server say about the product. Now this is a representation of one product. It says that it's an object and it has a private price and weight, which values are null. If you don't see this in exactly this way, I strongly suggest to install Xdebug, because it will help you on several places when debugging your application. And we will actually cover in some of the next lessons. We will actually use it to see how our code works from server side perspective. Anyway, this is our object of type product. So this is this variable here. We made it using the new keyword, and this is how you make one project by using the class like this. Now these are sort of like variables inside of our project. They're not exactly variables, but you can think of them as a variable, sort of like a multi-level array. And you can also have a property or a sort of like a function inside that product. In this case, our product does not need much more functionality. But one thing that I can mention while we're here, this private word here describes the scope of this weight variable here. So if you have private here, it means that this weight variable here is visible only inside of this product. And if it's a public, then it's visible from outside, from here as well. You could call it from here, access it from here. There's also protected, which I won't go now into the scopes. You can check that out, but let's keep to the basics and we will cover the scopes much more. But since these are private now, we can have one property which we define by writing function, and let's call it get weight, where it will just return weight. Now we need some way to set these values, get the price and the weight. And the easiest way to do that in this case is when constructing the product, we can set the constructor. And the constructor is a special method, sort of reserved method, that is being called at the same moment where we are creating this product. So we can here set the price and the weight, and we can set this weight to weight, the same for this price to price. And now here we can pass the price that we had before, like $5, and the weight is 1 kilogram. If we dump this product, we can actually see that these properties, price and weight, are being set, and we can actually get the weight of the product by calling this method here. And we get the weight 1 kilogram. Now, how can we use this in our shipping example? Well, we can make one more class, you guessed it, shipping, with some properties like total shipping. And we'll have a method which can also be public or private, called calculate total shipping, where we can pass in the weight of the product and the, how did we call it before, a price per kilogram, right? And this would return our, I'm missing the public function here, right? Weight times price per kilogram. Here we would make a shipping object, which will be new shipping. And then we would have a total shipping price equals to shipping, calculate total shipping, where this would be the product's weight times price per kilogram. And this price per kilogram will be defined somewhere from our database or config file, where it would be $5 per kilogram. And we are dumping something wrong. We are dumping nothing, so we are dumping total shipping price, which is 5, because 1 kilogram times $5 per kilogram. Life is great. However, what we did here is basically we just moved a function inside of the object, another object, and we didn't do anything object-oriented in practice. However, we can now use some of the object-oriented principles and methods where we would teach the shipping class how to use the product itself, so that we make sort of shipping class dependable on the product object, so that we reduce calling this one here again and in the loop, and here we would again have some products. However, now we can see that this is one benefit of having products, because we can have multiple products. Let's have this one cost $6 and have 2 kilograms. This one can have 4, 5, and then we would have to loop over these multiple products again here and calculate shipping for each of them. So it's sort of like back to square one, where we would have to pass parameters. However, we can remodel this so that we are, instead of calculating total shipping using some of the parameters, we can do that using the product object itself. And we can do that by storing some products inside the shipping class by having the private products property. And we can have the public function add products, where we can pass in product. We can even typecast this so that we know that we are expecting the product here and not some other value. And we would add this product to the local variable, these products. And mind you, we are taking a lot of shortcuts here, breaking a lot of rules, but we're just proving a concept. And here we would actually just calculate total shipping, not return it. So we will have another function, get total shipping price maybe, which will actually return the total shipping price. And this one would just set total shipping to this value. Now we will, instead of passing these parameters here, we will just say to the shipping class, here is a product that we have, in this case product. And instead of passing these, we can now teach the shipping class to calculate total shipping by using these products that it already knows about. So we don't need these parameters here. We can just say for each this products as a product, and we will just add this value to product and use the price per kilogram that we can actually give to this class in the constructor when we are constructing this class, right? And we can have the private property here and set it up here. And then we will use it here, price per kilogram, like this. Now, in theory, this should work. And of course it doesn't, because we are not providing this price per kilogram here into the shipping class constructor. We are not returning anything from the call to calculate total shipping here. But what we need to do is to actually tell to the class to do the calculation of total shipping, but then we need to ask it for the total price. And here we would get a total price of 5 times 1 kilogram. So this would be our price per kilogram, and this would be our 1 kilogram for this product. Now, one added benefit that we have to this one is that we can easily add product 1 and product 2, and this can be into our for each loop. And now we would get a product, the error, because product 2 is not defined. We have product 3, right? And we have a total of 35. Now it's easy to add more fields to this product, like free shipping. And we can have one function that's called set free shipping. And it would actually set this free shipping to true. By default, it will be to false. And we actually need the function that will get us get free shipping, and it would return this free shipping. Now you can avoid setters and getters by having this one to public and then directly set this property. However, it's much better to use getters and setters because you can have some additional rules around these methods, so that it's not just simple set and return. You might have to do some manipulation there. Let's keep it simple for now, and let's set a free shipping to a product number 3. And then here we would actually check if product get free shipping is true, and if it's not true, then we will add this product to the total, and when I hit refresh, we get a bit lower value because one of the products has a free shipping. Now you can see how product properties like free shipping, weight, and price are sort of encapsulated or contained inside the product, and this would be in our model. And this product would be its own separate file, and maybe you are writing this code, or you get it from internet, or your colleague is writing this code. You just know how to call, which methods to call, what is the API of that product, of that object, and you don't have to think about all the internals. The same goes with the shipping. Now you can just construct the shipping and add products to it and then call its methods, and you will get all the finished prices and all the results. So here this would be our controller. This would be into our loops, and this is now much more easier to maintain, to come back to after few months, few years, than having something like this where you would have a bunch of things happening in different places and duplicated along. And here, if we now need to get the same requirement, like set a different shipping provider or the shipping service, the courier service, we would just have a private method like a shipping provider, and then we would use the same logic that we had for the products, where we would either set it here, or maybe while constructing the class we would send in the shipping provider, and then that way we are always sure that the shipping provider is set with the shipping class, and then the shipping class itself would then have a different logic here, or some shipping provider logic here, or some other places, maybe in the get total shipping price, or while adding the products, the product itself could have a shipping provider, or could have a null shipping provider, or whatever. But you are contained into this separate file. In this case, we're in the same file, but you can put this into a separate file into your model and get all the benefits of object-oriented programming while keeping your code much easier to maintain. Now, this might at first be a very complicated way of thinking if you're not used to it, but we will discuss this more and more, and we will easily see how it can completely make sense to use it in big, larger projects like this, our CMS of ours. These are just the basics here that we just started on. And the source of this code is in the description. But before we summarize projects one more time, what do you think so far? Does this make any sense? Would you write me a comment if you think that some portions could be explained a bit more, and I will consider that for the future videos. Also, you can subscribe for the new videos while you are down there. To summarize, object-oriented programming, or OOP, is a way of writing code, or a coding methodology. We define objects using classes, and they simplify our problems, and they also organize our codes. So that's much easier to debug when done correctly. They can also be tested automatically. Each of these classes that we wrote can be tested automatically, and objects are used, or OOP is used in majority of companies and frameworks. Now click on the next video where we're going to convert our existing controllers into objects and use in the inheritance mechanism. And here is a programming joke for you.